Well, if Habibi, you're not going to work, you're soon going to have a masjid that is going to be unrecognizable. And because this generation has completely checked out of the masjid, who is replacing the leadership of this masjid? The new immigrants.
And
So
the cycle
the
happens.
cycle is completing itself. So the new immigrants come, the people who have been the old guards of the masjid, they're holding on to that masjid and they're like, oh yeah, and now they see this young guy who looks like them, walks like them, talks like them, eats like them, does everything like them, like, you're it. I can trust you. And you'll have them becoming part of the board, and that cycle never stops. Right? And that is why if you look at many of these institutions, respectable institutions, that exist in America and Canada, many of them, right? They have the same issue. The next generation, that was the generation of the 80s, they're not part of those Islamic organizations. And who is allowed? Anybody who comes from a foreign, little bit of degree. Oh, you're a new person. You speak proper Arabic, you speak proper Urdu, whatever language, you speak proper Indonesian. You're in. Because you look like me, you walk like me, you talk like me. So that cycle,
an extension of the original, that just keeps going.
That keeps going, and it never ends. So the solution to this, again, this is a very big, and those of you that have not seen this, there's a documentary on it. It's called Unmosqued. You should go and read that, watch that.
I gotta see that.
Yeah, there's a documentary on it, and it talks about this real issue that we're facing as a community. And again, the purpose of bringing this awareness to this is entirely that if we don't talk about crucial conversations in an adult fashion and talk about ideas openly and discuss, and I'm saying I could be 100% wrong in my analysis of this, but at least it is,
as far as I can tell, you're not wrong.
No, but it is an analysis, right? Unless and until somebody comes and provides a counter analysis, right? It is an analysis, and maybe their counter analysis, I will learn something.
Absolutely.
But the reaction, and I can tell you this, the reaction to this video is going to be, you're going to have hate comments, you're going to have all of these things, and people don't realize the intent over here has nothing to do with what happens in any specific or particular masjid. The intent is, it's a greater problem than our city. It's a national problem.
Absolutely.
And how do we address it? And I don't know the solution. Like I think honestly, my generation needs to step up and say, you know what, they're going to grow some thick skin, alligator skin, and they're going to work with these elders. It's not easy to work with the elders. You work in the realm of with adab, with ihtiram, with respect, and bring about the change that needs to be brought. There's no other way.
So are we gonna have a Husni Mubarak in each masjid that we have to get rid of?
Most of the masajids do, actually.
Sadly. That is really
right.
sad.
And there's a name for that in the Western culture. They call them the old guard.
Old guard.
Yes. There's a name for that.
Old guard.
They call it the old guard. Right? In every church they have these and again, our generation, and I want people to understand this. The churches also had to go through this similar situation, and they are suffering big time. It is not an issue just predominantly for masajids. It's also an issue that exists in our churches. My friend of mine recently was flying with a pastor, and they said he started this thing called a church without walls. And guess who's coming there? My generation. That the generation that has been unchurched. Right? They don't come to churches anymore. Why? Because there's a certain type of demographics, a way to present that attracts this particular group, right? And we have to strike a balance between pleasing the ones who are regular masjid goers and the ones that have been completely disconnected from these masajids. I'll do this litmus test for anyone. Go to your local masjid, any masjid, pick any local masjid. Go to that local masjid and look around and tell me if you can find somebody who was born in the 80s and early 90s that is there for Fajr or Isha. If you find them, they're going to be immigrants. somebody who was born and raised in America, they were born in the early 80s to mid 90s, that generation, go and find me somebody who was attending the masjid at Fajr or Isha, and you will have an occasional illa ma sha Allah. You'll have people. Exceptions are there, but the majority of that generation is not there. May Allah, protect us, and it's a serious issue.
Absolutely. So, in this case, should we not call for a kind of a constitution? You see how in America, a president has to be voted, and then he can stay for 4 years, and then another vote again to continue for another 4 years or another. So should we not have something? It doesn't have to be four, but something that limits how long a leader stays on that chair before he can step aside and let somebody else take over?
Again, so the way the charitable system is set up in America is that you as an entity, you're going to be tax-free. Government or IRS is not going to take any taxes from you. But there is an ahad, 501c3.
Yep.
But there's an ahad, al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum. There's a promise between us and them, which is that, sure, you will not be taxed. In return, those charities have to follow the bylaw to the letter. Now, those bylaws, again, at the time when these churches and these mosques were being built, it all depends on the bylaws of that particular entity.
Exactly.
Right. So the system is actually designed to be self-governed. They don't want to govern. They want like a church to be managed in a church way, a masjid to be managed in a masjid way, a synagogue to be managed.
And
that
makes
sense.
The
freedom.
Yeah.
So it's a very hard question to answer because it really depends on the bylaws of that masjid. Right. It really depends on the bylaws of the masjid. But at the end of the day, I think awareness is the first step. Involvement is the second step. It is no longer my generation, the ones that are 35 to 45, they cannot afford not to get involved in masajids. They have to. Absolutely. They have to put up with whatever although their culture is a different culture, but they have to put up that because you want your next generation to come into this masjid.
So even
and do it in a smart manner, because we were raised in this country, so we know the means and methods to do it without causing fitna, without causing fasad.
Exactly. That's.
There's emails, there's education, there's awareness. There's so many tools at our disposal here in the Western country that we can deploy to actually bring a positive change. And absolutely. Again, I look back and I say, there's this very big, honestly, respect that we have to give to the people who are currently running the masjids because it takes time. My generation is not willing to put in the time. They're busy with their gaming world and their video games and watching Netflix shows. There's a big blame on them too.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're not willing to come out. Like, who is the one who's serving? It's either the new immigrants and the people who have been around for building since the inception of the masjid. I mean, which one of us is going to put in 20 hours a week for a project that you're not going to get paid for, and only thing you're going to get is headaches? So much respect for them that they're Absolutely. Still putting up to that nonsense. Every single day there's something happening. But my generation is heavy blame on them. That we don't give time. We are a very, very, they say in Urdu, kanjoos. Bakhil. Kanjoos, right? We are a very bakhil generation when it comes to giving our time. Because we're occupied with so much nonsense. We're occupied with so much stuff that is irrelevant to our life. But we want our lifestyle. But then it's very easy for us to go and complain online. Oh, the uncles don't let us in. Well, you have not given the due time that is required to earn their respect. You don't go into Apple and say, I want to sit with Tim Cook tomorrow. It doesn't happen. You have to work and put in your dues. It's like any other. They're not going to give you the masjid in platter. They don't trust you. You don't even show up to the masjid. So there's a big blame on that generation. You have enough time to go and take all your friends and go on vacations and party. Go rent houses on beaches in Florida. But you don't want to get involved in your local masjid. there's a big blame on them.
Absolutely,
Huge blame on them.
I completely agree with that.
And again, I'm just raising an alarm because my kids' generation who are behind the camera right now, when their kids come, they will not find this masjid or any masjid, that local masjid that is there. They will not find it anywhere. No connection to that center.
There was a I forgot what was his name, but he said when they said they told him, you know, Muslims and Islam is spreading in America and things. He said, don't worry about it too much. He said, couple generations, the only thing from Islam you will have is their names.
Yes.
And it's starting to look that way. It's already.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you
and that wedding, the one you mentioned, is a
that's just one
example.
That's one.
Yeah.
I have so many other examples, but you know, I want to also leave the community with a very positive note. There's only 2 countries that I think where Muslims, while they were living under a minority, i.e. the Muslims are a minority in that country, have successfully protected their identity for 300 years. There's only 2 countries that I've been to like that. Number 1 is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is predominantly Hindu and Buddhist. 11% is Muslims. And the other one is South Africa. And the success of both of these was predicated on 2 primary, very big elements. Number 1, educational institutions. So they didn't work too much. So every masjid had an educational institution. So it was not just a masjid. It was also a mahad. It was an institution.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you about.
Right?
Yep.
It's an institution. There's education taking place. And in the education, they make it as much relevant as possible. So you make education relevant so that they step foot in the masjid. You bring them in the masjid. You do education programs that are relevant to them. And the second thing is businessmen. Muslims who focused on businesses. And they started controlling a big element and section or subsection of an economy. So now you have power and you can change policies. And that's why you will find that Muslims landed in South Africa 300 years ago. Today you will find South Africans that look like you and me. You would assume that they would speak some form of Arabic or some form of Urdu or Gujarati or Hindi or something. They don't speak the language at all. They speak South African languages. They're probably speaking Afrikaan or they're speaking the local South African accents. But you'll find them fully involved in their religion. They're still connected because they have these very powerful madrasas. A lot of respect. You know, Mufti Taha Karan, rahimahullah, he passed away. His madrasa in Cape Town. His father, you know, started that madrasa, and it is producing either hufaz or kids makatib in the evening where Quran education is predominant, where basic aqidah is being taught to these kids, and it's in a fun way. A lot of these things, and that protection mechanism is also failed. So we have certain good hopes. We have certain institutes that have started in America, but we need those type of institutes in every major city in America.
Absolutely. And you know, when you mentioned education, I remember the question around how many masajid should we have versus schools, Islamic schools.
Yeah.
We have shortage on Islamic schools. We have like something you can count on one hand. So we need a lot more. Maybe every time I hear they have a new masjid opening, I'm like, what about school? And people they ignore me, by the way, when I say that. They're like, who cares about schools? We need masjid.
You need madaris. You need schools and education systems. And currently, Islamic schools are really far behind compared to any other religious schools. We're really far behind. We're far behind because even the tuition that we pay is a fraction of a tuition that a Christian school pays. Number 2, we don't have endowments. We don't have, I mean, that's an entire topic.
Yeah, I know.
We can do it some other time.
Inshallah,
like endowments and how do Muslims go about creating those institutions, and we have to learn from their model, although it's not part of, you know, it's not legislated in our Sharia, but there's a certain model that they deployed. You know, they call them like founding families model, which is something so important for us to understand. But again, that's an entire discussion on its own, inshallah.
But I just wanted to see about, your thoughts.
100%, I agree with you. Schooling, whether there are elementary schools or whether there are madaris or whether there are after-school programs. And many of those programs today those after-school programs and Islamic schools are not serving the need because they're, again, filled with those cultural baggage.
Yep. You know, there was a documentary, I was watching it yesterday, about masajid, and subhanallah, was in Georgia.
Oh, really? Masajids in Georgia? Wow.
Yes, inshallah, I will send you the link to it. But their focus was around donations to the masajid. And where does it go?
Is it by... I know the guys, maybe.
But one of them was in RCM. A brother in RCM was like, explaining the positives in the masajid and he was showing some stats. This is how much the masjid need, and this is how much they're getting donations. That's how much they spend on staffing. But there were lots of questions around that. One of them is you mentioned that they're not paying taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they still have to report on where they spend this money. Yet there is no publicly accessible document showing where they spend the money, and that's
financial transparencies of masajid is a very big issue.
There you go. That's exactly
It's not an issue in any specific masjid. It's an issue in every masjid.
Exactly.
Financial transparency is a very big issue.
And that was their focus. It was really interesting. They brought up the points of the next generations that's being detached from masajid. They're not involved. They're not even interested in being in a masjid
or supporting the masjid.
Exactly. They mentioned cases where leaders of some masajid, how they roll in with a nice high-end cars and things like that when they're doing they were what they do for a living, like a normal job, some IT guy. But when he rolls in with a very high-end car, it raises questions like, where is we say it in Arabic, من أين لك هذا? Where did you get this from? Yeah.
أفلا جلس في قعر بيت أبيك. If you had stayed in the porch of your dad, would you have ever received all of that money?
Exactly.
Right?
And that's the questions there was really very good documentary, and was very professionally done. So inshallah I will send you the link.
Please, definitely. Barakallah feek.
Fiqh, inshallah. Sheikh, jazakallah khair. I know this topic requires a lot more time.
Yeah.
But
I'm happy to have a conversation on the school topic whenever.
Inshallah. I know you're busy. You have lots of other,
we have a guy who's accepting Islam today at the masjid.
Akbar.
He's going to come at 8 o'clock.
MashaAllah.
Masjid Hamza, at where I'm the imam.
Inshallah.
So I'm excited. I hope Allah gives him life until 8 o'clock.
Inshallah.
So he can come and accept Islam today.
I will try to show up there. And
come.
Inshallah. Maybe record him. That was, since you mentioned him, I'll put him somewhere in the video.
Perfect. That'll be amazing.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you in this life and the hereafter. Inshallah, we'll continue discussions around points that we mentioned, but they require their own time to give more do justice.
Due diligence.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
May Allah reward you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My brothers and sisters in Islam, Jazakumullah khair for watching. You are more than welcome to participate with questions or suggestions if you have them in the comments section. You can always get in touch with us. We also have our email in the about for the channel, Muslim Community in USA. Finally, support our channel by subscribing, liking and commenting, and spreading the word. We're doing this for the sake of Allah. It's not a business that we're doing to make money, but rather.
You're not gonna pay me? Just kidding.
Other than the Sheikh, inshallah, we'll see.
Just kidding. It was amazing being here. Alhamdulillah.
Allah yajzak khair, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will pay you Jannah. Inshallah.
That's the only reason I came.
Allahumma ameen ya Rabb.
That's the only reason I came.
With that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.